can't think of a single part of the world that we live in where psychology doesn't have something to contribute.
Psychology is a field that involves learning about who we are and why we're like that.
Psychology is a blend of art and science.
Psychology is about your life.
Psychology is in the forefront of rushing to meet the needs of people from different communities. My name is Miguel Ibarra, and I'm a second-year doctoral student in counseling psychology at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Since I was always the one that people would come to naturally for advice and just to talk things out, I took some undergraduate courses in psychology, and that worked out quite well.
You need to approach a career in psychology with an open mind, and by that I mean being willing to be flexible. I'm Dan Abrahamson. I'm a clinical psychologist and the administrative director of the Traumatic Stress Institute in South Windsor, Connecticut. The beauty, I think, of psychology is that it offers so many opportunities and so many different ways for you to work.
Some people may not think of psychology as kind of an active career. In a grocery store chain, you think, why would they hire psychologists? I was working there on a project to figure out the best way to select managers for the new stores. I'm Toni Wegner. I'm the Director of Undergraduate Studies for the Psychology Department at the University of Virginia. The area of industrial organizational psychology is really psychology applied to works. There are psychologists in lots of different professions. There are psychologists working for the telephone companies, for airlines, in all kinds of human services organizations.
We use our skills as scientists to evaluate what we're doing so that we can demonstrate effectiveness or not. I'm Ty Grove. I'm a school psychologist in Howard County Public Schools in Maryland. We all have feelings, but the question is, what do we do with those feelings?
Sometimes I get into fights with my friends.
This is called a belief, feeling, behavior activity. What the children are doing is allowing them an opportunity to react to what they hear.
You're moving to a new town.
Go. And physically place themselves so that we can see how they're feeling, and they can make some judgments about how different people feel differently, even when it's the same situation. Any observations here?
Working with depressed people, on the other hand, is very rewarding in the long run because it is a very treatable problem. My name is Lynn Ream. I'm a clinical psychologist. I like the variety of ways in which I may come into a situation and try to bring and apply psychological knowledge to the issues in different settings.
Here in therapy, we'll be talking about feelings when you feel comfortable to address those issues.
I like the idea of applying mathematical models to thinking about complex human behavior like intelligence.
In law, psychology is increasingly important. Not only do psychologists help pick juries, they are expert witnesses. I'm Pamela Trotman Reed. I specialize in social development, primarily looking at gender and culture. Developmental psychology is a fantastic area in psychology because you can do so many different things. You can focus on language development. You can look at adolescence and the problems in establishing identity. Developmental psychologists look at the changes that occur across the entire lifespan, from infancy through old age.
I'd like you to make a design that looks just like this on your page right now.
What I learn in my research, I use in my clinical practice, and in my clinical practice, I learn the important questions to ask in my research. Answering one question always leads to a next question which seems pertinent and timely. My name is Carol Manning, and I'm a neuropsychologist, which means I am involved with patients with neurological problems. I work in a memory disorders clinic, and there is a team of us who follow patients there. Among the things that Sandy does with me, she runs in particular an experiment looking at spatial memory in healthy elderly people. That person's asked to remember not only what the word was, but where on the screen it appeared. It's a way of looking at verbal memory as well as spatial memory.
It's now virtually impossible to conduct an experiment without the use of computers, either to control the delivery of stimuli, or to analyze data, or to control online collection of data. I'm Richard McCarty. I'm professor of psychology at the University of Virginia. Many employers have noted that psychology majors have tremendous skills in collecting analyzing and interpreting data.
I think the options are just limitless in what you want to do. If you like working with people, it's a great field to explore. My name is Carrie Turk. I'm a doctoral student in school psychology at Texas A&M. The appeal of psychology is the freedom that it will allow me. You don't have to work 8 to 5. You can teach your classes and do research at home however it needs to happen.
And what we're doing is looking at those two effects.
I really enjoy the aspect of applying what you were learning about in a discipline. My name is Dr. Rodney Hammond. I'm an associate professor with the School of Professional Psychology at Wright State University. My initial job in psychology was one in which I got an opportunity to observe young children in a preschool setting that was designed to accelerate their learning despite the children themselves coming from poverty. And this was a very successful program based on what eventually got to be the Head Start model.
I think the best of schools are places where everybody learns, and school psychology at its best is solving problems. My name is Sylvia Rosenfield. I am a professor in the school psychology program at the University of Maryland in College Park. Everybody has been in school all of their lives, right? And here's the opportunity to come back and to see what could be done differently in terms of making it a better place for kids, for teachers. Psychology is for you if you really like to think about how education could be improved.
I guess I never thought growing up that there were psychologists hanging out in my school.
We're translators in a way between the science of psychology and the environment of the school, and bring all of the research and knowledge of psychology to education.
There's a place for you in psychology if you're excited about science, because you can formulate questions and develop responses for people who like to get involved in theory and thinking and writing.
The exciting thing about psychology is that now the numbers that I'd read before were making sense, and that I was going to be able to generate some kind of research and gain some knowledge that was going to be useful.
We're talking about being able to be creative in the way you apply that disciplined way of thinking, and that's the combination of art and science.
One of the things we're interested in is to look at the relationship between stress and aging and how those two variables interact to affect memory. Aged animals don't remember where they have been, and they will often revisit arms of the maze. So using that very simple test, we can assess age-related memory deficits, and we can also look at treatments that improve memory. So one key substance is glucose. By regulating blood glucose levels, we can actually improve some of the memory deficits that we see in animals and in humans.
There are many other areas in psychology that are very important and that are expanding fields and areas, dealing with aging, dealing with children and adolescents, specializing in HIV/AIDS.
Psychology can be at the vanguard in all those areas, and you have an opportunity now, particularly as we're entering a more technological world, to be part of helping to define the new psychology and what psychology will look like in the 21st century.
The distinction between mind and body is one that has essentially evaporated. Psychologists will come to be considered as another major health profession, no longer making the distinction between health and mental health.
Physicians are starting to understand that it's not enough to know what makes people sick. The important changes in medicine in the future will be helping people realize how to stay well.
If you choose a field in psychology, you're opening a lot of doors at the same time.
I get a great deal of pleasure out of doing research. I can do research in many settings. I've done research on looking at television, looking at how males and female characters behave on television.
You look around on television and read the newspaper and see so many different ways in which people's lives are severely disrupted. And to realize that there's a way that we can help people who have experienced very painful life events.
You do see changes in people, changes in their outlook on life, their outlook on themselves, their feeling of being able to do things, being able to be effective, and that can be very rewarding as well.
I enjoy very much working with people. I enjoy doing research. I very much enjoy presenting the research back to the community from which it was drawn. As different groups from different cultures and ethnic groups become more visible, there is more of a need to address the issues that are faced by those different communities. One of the important issues of cross-cultural psychology is that it's an increasingly important issue in society in general.
The attention that we give to diversity in human beings is one of the major characteristics of the way we train psychologists now.
Psychology is a professional degree, so to be a psychologist you need to have a PhD. However, there are a lot of careers that are psychology related that I think would appeal a lot to students. There are consulting firms that are hiring psychology majors now because they realize psychology students have the right kind of training that is going to help them in these areas. With a good BA in psychology, you'll develop writing skills, you'll develop analytical skills. You just become a lot more aware of interacting with other people. There are so many places where psychologists can play an important part, and the training that you receive in preparation for psychology can really give you the skills to work in a variety of different settings.